Let's say we are building a simple to-do app. We have two user experiences to choose from. The first one, when I add an item to the list, we send it to the server, show a loader and wait for it to respond, and only then we add the item to the list. And in case if it errors out or something, we would show a toaster, just like this. In the second user experience, as soon as I add the item, it gets added to the list, and in case it errors out, we would roll it back by showing a toaster, and if it succeeds, we add the item to the list. As you can tell, the one on the right has a far better user experience, and this trick is called as optimistic update. We don't make the user wait, we update the UI instantly, and the API calls or whatever side effect happens in the background, and if it succeeds or fails, we take the necessary actions. It is widely used and you've already felt it everywhere. For example, tap the heart on Instagram. The heart icon fills immediately. The post request to record the like happens in the background. On WhatsApp, when you send a message, the bubble appears in the chat as soon as you hit send. Once the server acknowledges, the single tick to double tick update follows. In the first user experience, when the user adds a to-do, we first show the loader and then we make the API call, and only once it succeeds do we update the list of to-dos that we have. So it's a blocking kind of an update. Before React 19, to achieve optimistic update, first we would have to create a placeholder object with pending equal to true so that we can show the loader, and then we immediately update the state. Then we dispatch the network request, where if it succeeds, we replace our temporary item with the item returned from the server, and if it fails, we will have to roll it back and revert the temporary item. Now there are a few drawbacks for this. First, you change the main state before the server confirms. If another part of the app is reading that state, it might show the wrong data for a moment. Second, the rollback is tricky. You must remember the temporary ID you inserted and write code to delete or replace it later. It's easy to miss edge cases in this case. Third, it's hard to handle rapid clicks. Like for example, if the user adds 3 items quickly, the 3 network calls can finish in any order, and you have to write extra code to keep the list in the right order and undo failures. All of this adds a ton of repeated code. Let's see how React 19 simplifies this for us. It gives us an entire new hook called as useOptimistic. It takes in 2 parameters. The first parameter, this is our actual state. It gives back 2 items similar to the useState hook. The first one is an optimistic state, which is a temporary copy of the state. The second one is a helper function which lets us update the optimistic state. We should also provide the update function either here or inside the add optimistic. And the update function is a pure function that describes how the UI should look if a new item were added. First, we have our actual state to-dos. We call the useOptimistic hook and pass in our actual state and an update function, and it returns us an optimistic state, optimistic to-dos, and an add optimistic function. Note here that in the UI, we are making use of the optimistic to-dos instead of the actual state. Then, when the user adds us to-do, we first create a temporary to-do object like this. We add that to our optimistic state using the add optimistic function. When this happens, React runs our update function, which tells us that whenever a new to-do is coming, we should just add it to our optimistic state. Finally, we make our API call inside the start transition function. Now start transition is also imported from React, and it lets you render a part of the UI in the background, which means we are telling React that this is a low priority asynchronous work. Keep the UI responsive while this piece of code runs. So our API call being inside start transition runs in the background without blocking the UI. And only if it succeeds do we update the actual state. And on error, we don't really have to do anything. React simply drops the optimistic layer, automatically roll back, and there is no extra code. Note that you can pass the update function inside the add optimistic instead of passing it inside the use optimistic hook. This also works. The update function is mandatory because this is what React looks for whenever we add an optimistic value. This makes it very simple and declarative. There is no duplicated rollback code to save during rapid clicks. Our actual state, the canonical state, stays clean. This is the new snappy way to ship clean optimistic UIs in React 19. If you like the video, do share it with your friends, like, share and subscribe, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.